Hello and welcome to another Stamp with Amy K YouTube Live, and I'm just out here double checking that everything looks good to go on my YouTube page, which hopefully it does. Yep, I can see that I'm live and I'm pulling it up so I can see comments, and if you're joining in today, I appreciate that. Feel free to say hello and leave a comment. If you're watching the replay, that is awesome too. I appreciate it no matter when you stop in to check out the video. And for whatever reason, my camera is a little like crazy crooked today, so hopefully it's not too, it doesn't cause too much trouble. All right. Today we are going to be working with a card that I made with the Beautiful Autumn stamp set bundle. This is a really awesome bundle. I love it. Love the sentiments. Love the fall images in this one. So this is the stamp set, and it is a photopolymer set from the Stampin' Up! August to December 2020 mini catalog. So that's, hey Karen and Patricia, I appreciate you guys being here today. So this is the stamp set we're using, and then it comes bundled with this awesome set of punches. And I know that there's always a glare on the top of the punches, so it's probably a little easier to see them here. Hey Kathy, glad you're joining in from Canada as well. So, and it is a really good bundle. It's one of my favorites. Hey Karen, thanks for joining today. So, all right, these are the punches, and there is a maple leaf, and I think this is an oak leaf. And again, I know somebody will tell me I'm wrong because I'm always wrong. I shouldn't even try. And then we've got the little acorn punch. But anyway, there are definitely some very pretty leaf punches and the acorn punch. And they coordinate with the images here in the stamp set. So we've got the little maple leaf, the acorn, and then the what I believe is the oak leaf. And then these are the images that actually will fill in. So this stamps the lined images, and then you just stamp over it, and you've got it all filled in and perfectly colored. Hey Rosie, and Barbara and Danette, I'm glad you all are here. Maple and oak leaves. Okay, so I am right this time. So normally I say the wrong thing and someone always corrects me because I guess I shouldn't say that I don't know but I usually don't. So, all right, so that is the stamp set, and again, it's a photopolymer, so it's a see-through one, so it's very easy for stamping, which is awesome. And again, the punches are always easy to use, and I know everybody loves those. Well, at least I love those, so I'm assuming everybody loves them as well. On the background of the card, I've got the wreath from the Arrange a Wreath stamp set, and actually we are using the bundle for that today as well. We've got this piece and this piece are actually designed to work together to make a little like layered bow look. And that's what we did on the card today. So we've got that cut from some of the brushed metallic cardstock. And then the wreath image that we're stamping on here is from this stamp set. And again, we're starting with a very vanilla card base. Also doing a little embossing today with the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. And for whatever reason, I always want to call it Tasteful Textures instead of textile. So I always have to look at the name and make sure I've got it right. But it's the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. So we're going to do a little embossing with that in a second as well. All right, let me set the stamp set aside. And before I get going, I did want to remind you really quickly, if you have not redeemed your bonus days coupons, make sure that you get those turned in this month or redeemed this month, because I don't want you to miss out on your $5 off with the coupon code. So make sure that if you earned those last month and into the early part of this month, that you get them redeemed before the last day of August. They will expire and go away, and then you won't be able to use them, and then we'll both be sad. So make sure that you get those used, get them redeemed before the end of August. All right, the card starts out with a couple of pieces of very vanilla cardstock, which is layered one on top of the other, and I know it doesn't always show up particularly well in a video when you're doing layering one color on top of another, but this is very vanilla. We've got it cut to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and then this is a panel of very vanilla, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4. The one that's slightly smaller is the one that we're going to be stamping on. Hey Tina, I'm glad you're here from Michigan as well. So, and the wreath image from the Arrange a Wreath bundle is actually, it's kind of a big image. I tried to put it on the next size down block, and it hung over just a little bit. So you have to use this big old, which is this little E block? I can't remember which, or F block. So you have to use a big, huge F block if you're going to use this image. Otherwise, I do find that the Stamparatus works really well for this image, and it's a lot easier kind of than handling that big block is to me. So I've got Sahara Sand ink, and I'm just going to ink up the image here with that. So that's what we're going to start with for the wreath. I was trying to get it to be a little bit more of a neutral color in the background. I tried out a couple different designs, a couple of different ways of stamping it when I was putting things together. And originally I had started with a terracotta tile, and that was too dark. And then I went with bumblebee, and that was too yellow. And then I went with crumb cake, and that was too dark. So that I finally decided, you know what, let's just go with the lightest color that we can get, and it's Sahara sand. So, and I liked the way it looked after all that, and, you know, stamping multiple times, trying to make sure that I had it exactly the color that I wanted it. All right, so we're going to stamp that down here. And Kathy, hello from Colorado. Glad that you're here joining as well. So we've got the Sahara sand stamped on the background. And then next up, we're going to do the sentiment here. And this, again, is from the Beautiful Autumn stamp set. I'm using terracotta tile ink. Just going to stamp that right underneath. So inking it and stamping it right underneath our wreath image. And again, it's always a little easier to stamp things straight when I don't have a camera in between me and what I'm stamping, but hopefully I get it fairly straight on there. Whoop, then I just dropped the block. All right, so let's set that aside. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to emboss this panel, actually, now that we've got the stamping done. So that is one little quick tip. If you haven't done a lot of embossed backgrounds, make sure that you always stamp first and then emboss. So if you try to emboss first, even though it's kind of a more subtle design like this one, you'll end up with bumps and dips and things in your cardstock, and then you won't get a really nice image. So I always stamp first and then emboss. Hey, I see Denise is here as well from Denise is, I guess Kathy's from Colorado. Okay, so I'm glad that you're liking this stamp set as well. So, all right. So for embossing, Stampin' Up! Has put this nice little line down here across the bottom of the embossing folders. And so that shows you that if you get the bottom of your cardstock lined up with that line, then you know that you're going to be straight, or you should be straight when you're running it through the die cutting machine. This one doesn't necessarily matter, but I know that there are some of the patterns that it does have more stripes running through it, and it looks a little crazy if you get it in sideways. But this one's probably okay. So hey, Paula, glad you're here from Canada as well. So I do have the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and I should show you really quickly. The bottom plate, the number 1 plate on that machine, actually has the instructions for the different sandwiches or different layering when you're doing your die cutting. So that is a really huge, hey Sheila, glad you're here as well from Canada. All kinds of people from Canada today, so I appreciate y'all joining in. So that plate has got the instructions for layering for your sandwiches for the new machine, which is really, it's a handy thing to have, and it's right there so you don't lose it. You can't lose it because you have to have this in order to run it through the machine. So for the 3D embossing folders, which is what we are using today, it's the number 1 plate, the embossing folder, and it says to put it through the hinge side first, so I'm going to put that down here, and then the number 4 plate, and that goes right on the top, and then we're just going to run it through the die cutting machine, which I'm doing that a little bit off screen just because my die cutting machine wiggles my table a lot when I run it through over there, and I don't want to make y'all seasick. So Paula says she loves the new die cutting machine. I do too. It works really slick, and I can't wait until we get the magnetic platform to go with it. Because that's one thing that I will honestly say, the magnetic platform is one thing that I use pretty much on every card because it just makes it so much easier when you're die cutting things and, you know, sentiments and whatever, easier to have it stuck down and in place before you run it through the machine. And the new magnetic plate actually will be magnetic all over the entire plate rather than the older style that we had that had these little magnetic dots in it, and the dies were always sliding all over the place. This one should work much better. I can't wait to get my hands on it. All right, so back to the card. Got Stamp and Seal here, and I'm going to put that down. I actually am putting it on the background piece instead of on the back of my embossed panel, just because sometimes I get a little heavy-handed when I'm putting the adhesive on, and then I smash my embossing, which is not what I want to have happen. So I usually try to put it on the flat piece first, and then adhering the two together, hopefully straight and somewhat centered. Which, yep, looks like I got it there. All right, so we've got that done. Next up, we're going to do, actually, we can go ahead and adhere it to the card front. The sample that I made actually is, again, my portrait card. So this is cut to 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2, and so it opens like a picture. We're going to be making one that is the book type, landscape, I guess it is, the book type card. So this one is cut to 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4, but it makes the same exact card that the other one does. So Finally found me, Bernadette. I'm glad. Oh, no, I'm not even close to done. We still got lots of stamping to go, so no worries. All I did was put together a little bit on the card front, so you're here in plenty of time. I'm going to use a couple little Stampin' Dimensionals here, my cut in half Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm adhering that onto a thick, very vanilla card base. I do love the thick Very Vanilla and thick Whisper White when I'm doing the solid, either white or vanilla card bases. I love the thick card base. It makes such a difference in just kind of how the card holds up and how it feels and everything. Oop, and there I almost put it on upside down. All right, so we're going to go ahead and adhere that together. All right, next up we've got some stamping to do and a little bit of punching. So I've got the cardstock here. This is Bumblebee, and I've got Bumblebee ink, and we're going to be using that one for the little oak leaf. One thing to notice about your punches is just make sure that you're stamping it when you're planning to punch the images out. Just make sure that your image is going to line up with the way the punch works. So you want the little point of the leaf to be down towards the bottom of the cardstock so that you're not having to kind of wrestle around and cut pieces of your cardstock off that you don't necessarily want to have to do. So just make sure you've got them lined up. So, hey, Akiko, glad that you're here as well. So, and thank you, I appreciate that. So, all right, next up we've got terracotta tile ink and terracotta tile cardstock, and we're going to stamp the little maple leaf in the terracotta tile. And again, just being careful to make sure that my leaf, it doesn't have to be pointed exactly straight down, but just generally that way so that you can get the punch around it easier. And closing that up. And then the last one we're going to be doing is cinnamon cider cardstock and cinnamon cider ink. And I better flip that stamp upside down because I will stick my fingers in it for sure if I have something that has got color on it and I put it facing up, then I always end up sticking my fingers in it and then end up with ink everywhere. All right, so we've got the cinnamon cider little acorn stamped, and then we're just going to do a little bit of punching. So we're going to start with the oak leaf since that one's had the longest time to dry. And again, punches are super easy. Now that I say that, I'll probably mess these all up. But generally, they're pretty easy to use, pretty easy to line up, and quick if you want to do a whole bunch of them. And as you can see, my punches are kind of flying. If I were using two hands, I can contain the punches a little bit better, but they're just shooting across my desk, so I'll just bring them all back here in a second. And then we're going to do the maple leaf next. And again, just going to line it up. This one's a little bit, just have to be a little careful to make sure that you've got the points all in the right place on this one. And I do like that the punches give you a second where you can kind of hold it in there and squeeze it together, but not actually punch it yet. Gives you like that last second view where the dies, a lot of times when they're sliding through the machine, all of a sudden it gets to the point where it's cutting the die. And I'm like, oop, that's not quite lined up. So nice to be able to stop yourself with the punches before you end up doing that. So, hey, Roxanne, glad you're joining from Oregon. And hey, Krista, I see you're here as well. And Karen, so thanks for hopping in today. All right, last up, we've got the acorn, which again, just going to do the same thing. We're going to just line up and punch. The acorns aren't flying quite as far as my leaves did, so I don't know. Maybe the acorn punch just, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the way the punch is designed and the way the pieces fit together. I don't know. They don't fly as well, which is kind of sad. All right, so we've got that, and I've already done the die cutting on that, so we'll put that on in just a second as well. We've got some glue dots here, and we are going to just adhere a couple of the leaves around and the acorns with some glue dots, because glue dots are super easy to use, and they're one of my favorite adhesives. Just need a little bit, little glue dot. Stick things down, and the glue dots you can kind of move around a little bit too as you're adhering things together. If you find you put something in a spot that I don't know that I love the placement of that, glue dots, as long as you haven't really smooshed them down onto the paper, you can move them around fairly easily without tearing up your project usually. But of course, about the time that I say that, then I'll tear up something on my project. But usually they're pretty simple to use, and I don't want to say foolproof, but they're easy to use and easy to move around if you need to as you're working through your project. And I also like glue dots because, as you can see here, I'm trying to stick things under and layer it up a little bit. And it makes it a little easier to do that when you're using glue dots because they don't go all the way to the edge of whatever it is that you've adhered down. So it makes it a little easier for adhering the pieces together. And we'll tuck that one in here, and I think we'll do the last little acorn. Maybe tuck that in between the leaves over here. I think we'll call that good. All right, then the bow pieces. Again, this is from the Wreath Builder dies, and I went ahead and pre-cut those from some of the brushed metallic cardstock, and just going to adhere the pieces together with glue dots. I'm going to turn it this way and just try to get the centers as lined up as I can, and then adhere the center again to the card front with a little glue dot here as well. All right, we are almost done. Just have a couple little embellishments to put in. Hey, Linda, glad that you're here from Philadelphia, and I see Joanna is here as well. So from outside Atlanta, Georgia. All right, awesome, very nice. Thanks for being here. And Paula's saying that glue dots, yes, they are awesome. They're like one of my favorite adhesives. Between that and dimensionals, I could probably pretty much, stick everything together that I ever needed to. As long as I had dimensionals and glue dots, I'd be set. All right, then I'm just adding a couple of the little 2020 to 2022 in color enamel dots, just kind of tucking them around the leaves here. Just add a little bit of something extra to it, and that's it for the card front. So super simple. And then on the inside of the card, just did a little bit of Stampin' as well. Very similar to the card front, same colors. Just stamped a couple of the leaves and a couple of the acorns. So. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you all are liking the card. Like I said, it's really easy, and that's one of the things that I like. I'm a pretty simple stamper, so I like quick and easy and pretty. So got to make sure there's that it's pretty too, not just quick and easy. And using Bumblebee ink again on the oak leaf. I think tuck that one in there like that. Maybe turn this one. Stamp it down here, and then we've got the little acorn, and we'll be done stamping the inside as well. And again, it's cinnamon cider ink that I'm using to stamp the acorn image, and that's it for the inside of the card. Again, just going to grab Stampin' Seal. Simple and beautiful. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Glad you guys are liking the card. Leaves, yeah, the leaves probably would look nice in the baby wipe technique. That's one that I haven't done in a really long time. I may have to pull that out and give it a shot. So thanks, Amy. I appreciate it. So using a little Stampin' Seal to adhere the card, the inside of the card to the inside of the card. Makes sense? Hopefully. All right. Little panel in here. And again, this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then we're just going to use a bone folder and do a nice solid crease on the card front, and that is it. So the card is done for today. So all the details for this card will be posted out on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. So feel free to stop out and check out any of the details out there, and I'll be posting links so that you can purchase any of the products that I use to make it as well. This is an awesome bundle. Actually, they're both awesome bundles. Wreaths are always pretty, and I love fall, so I was happy to be able to kind of put the two together and make a nice little card. So it definitely, see, it is really quick, Karen. See, it only took, 20 minutes, and I've been talking and carrying on for probably half of that. So it was super simple. One of my favorite ways to stamp. So again, I appreciate you all being here. Thanks so much for joining. Have a good rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. I will plan to be back on my Facebook channel live on Tuesday around 2 o'clock Eastern time, and then back here live again out on YouTube around 2 o'clock next week, Friday, Eastern time. So again, thanks for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will chat soon.